Hello, it's Lit Lessons with GCSE Memes once again, looking at another poem from the Edexcel collection Time and Place, which you will hopefully be familiar with if you've got your way to this video. We're looking today at Stewart Island, the poem from that collection. We'll be thinking about the three key emotions that exist in the poem, the context behind it, before summarising all of that, thinking what poems is it good to compare to, what are the key things I need to remember, and what do I need to do to improve my revision of this poem. So, without further ado, let's get on straight to the context now then of this poem. And Stewart Island is an actual place. It's the third largest in New Zealand and one that therefore is quite a popular holiday destination and quite popular with the tourists as well. The poet who made and wrote this poem was born in New Zealand but left to live in England. Now she did that at quite a young age. I think she was 5 years old when she did that. But she did then move back to New Zealand to experience her childhood place of living once again to study at university. However, she then decided to leave New Zealand once again to go back to live in England. So she would be what we would call a somewhat nomadic, someone who moved quite a lot. And just so it's clear in your head, I've done this kind of it's very basic diagram for you here of how she ventured between New Zealand and England. She ended up actually settling in England after having given New Zealand another try in her later years, so in her university years. But that's basically the journey she had and her relationship she had with New Zealand and England kind of in a picture for you. As well as that, she is known to be a writer who often writes about everyday events but puts quite dark twists on them, and Stewart Island is definitely a poem that applies to as well. Now, I'm going to highlight, as I always do with these poetry lessons, the key context for you there to get down your notes. Feel free to pause the video here if you want some extra time to get those down as part of your revision. Now, I would say that this poem as well is one of the more autobiographical ones in the collection, and do mention that if you do write about this poem in an exam, because it will obviously get you some easy context marks. But that's all the kind of background knowledge that you need to know to understand this poem. Now, the one thing I would say before I move on, and like I said, do pause it if I am going too quickly for you, she decided to leave New Zealand that second time and come back to England. And that kind of sums up really her her attitude towards New Zealand as a place. She wasn't as big a fan of it as she was of England. That's certainly true. Now then, I am moving on at this moment in time. I will be going through the three key emotions of this poem. Okay, and I've got the full poem here. Yep. Now, what I'd like us to do to start with is have a look at the bit I've put in a square here for us, and the key emotion that I'm focusing on first of all is one of frustration. Fleur Adcock, or the poetic voice I should say, feels an element of frustration when it comes to Stewart Island, and it's very clear from the violent verbs she chooses in this section that she feels like that. Now, basically in this second section of this poem, after that full stop, she talks about her experiences on a beach with her children, and it's quite a negative tone evident straight away to experiences on that beach. She does not see this as an ideal holiday destination. She can't understand why it is a good holiday destination. It's too cold to swim, and the animals are essentially causing her and her children to suffer. With the animals biting and jabbing their beaks into the children, her finding it too cold to swim. She does not find it the ideal place to have a holiday whatsoever. So the first key emotion, quite simple, is the frustration she feels. Key feeling number two then is a little bit more beneath the surface, and that is one of distrust. And that becomes quite clear in the parenthesis in this line that we're going to be looking at today. Now, parenthesis is a very posh word for brackets, commas or dashes that add additional information, and the writer uses them here when talking about what the hotel manager's wife did. she ran off with a Maori fisherman with a Scottish name, and she's immediately made a character that we distrust. We don't trust what she says about the island, that it's got a fine bay, it's got a lovely atmosphere, white sands, because she is someone who is having an extramarital affair. So that's the first thing that we get from her. We distrust this other character, and even, you know, the line "all hills and atmosphere" it's got quite a sarcastic tone behind it that shows you that the actual voice of the poem doesn't really believe what she's hearing from the hotel manager's wife. It seems to be suggesting as well the fact that this place has got extramarital affairs happening on it, that this is a place that lacks morals, that it lacks kind of human decency as well. And the other thing that's really interesting about this is the idea that the Maori fishermen have Scottish names. Okay, these are once proud people have abandoned their culture, their origins, their ancestry to try and fit in a bit more. And again, it seems to reflect the negativity that Adcock feels this place is having on its inhabitants, who are essentially selling out their culture to try and fit in a place which she doesn't really have much liking to anyway. So that's key feeling number 2. Key feeling number 3 is one of desperation for change. Okay, and this is an incredibly negative poem, actually, and this is most clear from the fact that this is a 3-verse poem. This is written quite conversationally and it has little rigid structure, but that creates quite a ranting tone, and it shows you that this character is basically listing off all the things that they find distasteful about the place, and is probably speaking the poem in quite a fast animated way. Where there are pauses, they are created in the middle of the line, creating caesuras, which again shows you this lack of structure behind the thoughts and behind, I suppose, the way of living in Stewart Island as well. As well as this, we've got an enjambment throughout the poem where sentences and phrases don't finish at the end of a line, and again it shows you this is a frustrated outburst. Again, you might as well say as well that this is a place that lacks structure, just like the poem, and Adcock and the voice seem to find that a very difficult thing to comprehend and deal with and understand why people like it so much. And then we have this final line, which is an example of that enjambment and that 3-verse work. And the past tense of this line is also something that's great to talk about. It's good to talk about these structural things for the higher marks. The voice seems to hate this place, even before these kind of horrible negative things happen on this beach. So she has these things happen on the beach. She's already decided to leave anyway, but this seems to confirm to her that yes, she is doing the right thing by leaving this place, and it is the best decision for her and her children. So those are the 3 key emotions from the poem. As always, I've summarised the poem for you in 4 boxes here. You again might want to pause the video here, get down these notes. I've put 3 bullet points of 3 best poems to compare to, 3 quotations, 3 key pieces of key context, and the 3 key emotions I've just talked about there, ready for you to make notes on. So feel free to pause it, because I am moving on the slide now. To finish today, I am going to show you just one meme, as always. I've gone for a SpongeBob meme. It's I think it's my 2nd or 3rd SpongeBob meme I've used. I love SpongeBob anyway, so that's fine. Remember to please like, subscribe, and follow our Instagram page. And if there's anything else that you need, do please mention it in the comments. Thank you.